Welcome to Steve and Bobby Show. My name is Steve Williams, of course, and I'm here with Bobby Bliatu every week like we do it here in the central part of Fresno, California, like
That's
we
right.
always do. So I'm if there's all kind of stuff going on.
You know, we talked about a lot of stuff that's going on all over the country, but there are stories that are in our own locales.
Yep.
People who are fighting for things that are very important. I think that through this administration, things that we were fighting for from the very beginning, a lot of folks that out there have been championing. We got a lot of soldiers doing a lot of different things. And, you know, you and I, Steve, have talked about the stuff that's happening at our border, the stuff that's going on with immigration, the stuff that, you know, how this administration has been completely discriminatory,
Yep.
you know, racist, whatever you want to call, with all the actions that it's taken.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm glad we have a lot of, you know, great folks out there that are continuing to fight the fight and not letting get the bad things that are happening overshadow these things, and they continue to do this.
Yeah, and I think most of this, especially when we're talking about a lot of things that this administration is, and it's somewhat some other administrations as well. One of the biggest issues that we here are big supporters of is the situation that has been happening at the border that has literally been going on unapproached, right? You got Border Patrol, you got local law enforcement that are actually apprehending family members, separating family members to the point to where some of these family members don't even know where their parents are, where they're at, and we've seen all the pictures that have been coming out of the border, and it's heart-wrenching and it's heartbreaking.
Right,
the
and
stuff
you
that's
got
going on.
you know the fight with DACA. You
Yeah.
got the fight. You know, ICE is going out there just you know taking people.
Yeah.
You know, just people disappearing. Just a lot of different things that are happening.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, or not amazing is the wrong word, but you know, I can't understand how we have continued to let this happen. How some legislators have let this slide by the wayside. Right. So I'm happy that we have great fighters out there doing it, and that's what we got for you guys today. Right?
Yep. Yeah, we got Rafael Avitia. I think I said Avitia. I think I said it right with us today.
You're going to get corrected right here, brother.
And who is an advocate on this very subject, one of the very subjects that we ourselves here in this show support a lot. And there's some big things that are happening, and there are things that Mr. Avitia is doing to make this happen. I appreciate you for coming on our show today. Tell us exactly, when or what you're doing and when it's happening. I think those are the two biggest issues right here in the beginning, and why that this needs to be told, this story that you guys are that's coming up.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been part of a national call to action organizing groups across the country, from city to California, here in Fresno, Oregon, Texas, in between. And this action is a call to action to call attention to not just what's happening, what you described as, you know, we know this, the kids in cages, but an ongoing policy of immigration that's affected a lot of people, especially people who have roots in Mexico and Central South America. But also, there's a lot of people don't know this, African people at the border, and the southern border, who also craps or of African descent. So many of us decided that it's time to speak out after following this election, where Joe Biden is now predicted to be the next president. And this action, and I'll go in a little bit more into detail as to why, is going to be taking place on January 20th, Inauguration Day, as per the Constitution. The president is inaugurated that day. That's when officially the transition occurs. So a lot of us felt that we need to send a message to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and everybody else, including the Democratic Party, that regardless of who's in the leadership, a lot has been going on. Like you all said, it's been it's disappeared with everything else going on. But where kids are in inhumane situations, cages, literally in boxes, in El Paso, down at the border, in the cold and the heat, torn apart from families. This is a fight that many of us can personally, relate to. Me personally, I came here to the United States as an immigrant. I came as a child. My parents, quote unquote, snuck me across the border. So some people would say I was illegal. Up until I was 12 years old, I knew exactly what it meant to have to hide from from what we back then had to deal with was the INS back then. Now it's ICE, and having to hide from ICE or the immigration as a young child living in South Central LA, not speaking any language other than Spanish, was terrifying. Uh, and why I personally am doing this, because I've always fought this fight, knowing where I come from and what I had to jump through, the hoops that I had to jump through, and watching it still happen today, where families are being broken up. I have something dear. It's dear in my heart, but at the same time, from a logical perspective, I'm also an educator. I have a law degree and a master's, and I would be intellectually honest if I didn't mention that this is stolen land that belonged to Native Americans and people from North and South America. This land had always been open, and knowing that history, I will always be against these borders and these immigration tactics to round deport them. And for what reason they do it? There's a lot of reasons that they do this, including for profit. Definitely for profit, because I too worked in the fields picking oranges, picking grapes, and also in the hot sun out there, worked in the fields with my family so we could live, only to go to college and find out that, hey, this land had once it's been stolen from us, wrongfully taken. And if you go down to the treaties of the United States, what they had with the United States, with not just Native Americans, but Mexico and other countries, United States has been responsible for breaking those treaties, not living up to those treaties, violating the laws. So I also have a political side of it. So that's why many of us are doing it, because our roots are in Mexico and in Central America, and also because we recognize that politically and legally, the United States hasn't lived up to its end of the bargain.
So let me ask you this, because we know that the present administration in right now is horrific, okay? But Democrats are not out of, they're guilty as well. They have contributed to some of these issues as well. So what is it, Biden did promise, this was one of his biggest issues during his campaign, the dealing of DACA, the dealing of the kids in cages. These were first item issues that Biden said he was going to take care of. So what is, I know January 20th is the inauguration. I know you guys are putting this out, and this is important. This is why I wanted you on today, because of that, because I think that's very important. But what actions need to be taken, especially at the local level and the congressional level? Because, we got Nunez here, a big Trump guy. What is the actions that you think would be the most effective way to get the quickest response in a situation that we're in right now, especially in a progressive state like California, because we have options?
Well, good question. And we have demands that we've already listed that we're going to be releasing soon. As a matter of fact, I'll send that to you all as soon as it's done, I think within the next week or two. But one of the things we're demanding is within the first 100 days that he immediately release these families, reunify them with their families or guardian or whoever they have here. Immediately give these kids, these kids some sort of status or a path to it, because many of them won't connect with their original families. And going back to the Democrats, that's one thing that I can say about some of the people I'm working with is we're not fools to the Democratic Party. We know the game that they've played with our community for years. The Republicans, we know where they stand, and we understand how they feel about us, including Devin Nunes. But what we also recognize that under Article 2, the President of the United States has executive power to issue orders, to immediately do these things. There's no excuse. There is no excuse. That's why I could give a damn about Devin Nunes and all them. I know they don't care about us, but the Democrats can't also lie to us that they can't do anything, because Barack Obama proved it during his presidency. He did a lot of, legislating through executive orders, and so did Donald Trump. They all have this power. So to say they can't do it is not true. And one of the things demands that we're also making to the Democratic Party is that, we knew this before, that this had been going on with our communities, where they come in and they use us. Me and Bobby have talked about this, where people of color, including, the African American community, has been used for years by the Democratic Party. And I think one of the beauties of social media is that with a lot of young people, they can get information so quick that to educate them on the history of the Republican and the Democratic Party, on the differences between conservative and liberals and policy making that goes on, it's much easier, faster to do. So we are not as tied to the Democratic Party as, say, as our generation prior to us was, or during the 60s and 70s were. So
Right.
we have those demands going out within 100 days.
Right. I'd love to get it when you get it there. If it's something that we can actually put out to see what that is and to know what that that
Yeah.
care for is. And you're consistently saying we. We didn't get that proper introduction there. When you say we, you mean?
Well, I'm a member of the Fresno Brown Berets locally, but I'm also the co-chair, national co-chair of a group called La Mesa, which is a network of Brown Berets across the country from Atlanta to to California, and that's one of the groups I definitely belong to, where I can speak out openly about what's happening and represent several states across the land. But then I'm also a part of this effort that's being organized on the 20th, which is also Brown Berets, but other organizations, including cultural organizations who support freeing these kids immediately. I say we, I'm talking, about all of us across this land, not just Brown Beret organizations like the one I belong to, but also educators, a lot of parents, labor organizers who feel the same way and are signing on to this effort. And so when I say we, I'm talking about a lot of people across this land, a lot of organizations across this land.
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a fight that we have to keep continually advocating for, pushing, and people need to understand that this is a real thing. This is real, and we mean business. But before we go any further, KP, I mean, if we can get that poster up there, and then we'll have it also up at the very end for people to see. But if people can join in on this, because on this day, the 20th, in the other show we talk about things that are going to probably happen on the 20th, and the people on all sides of the spectrum are going to be trying to do some things. But I do love the mere fact that you are going to ask for 100 days for certain things to be addressed, because the president, this executive administration, has a power to do so through their orders, because yes, they've done it many times, and this is something that's very simple to make an order to do, and then the funding has to go into it to make sure they do it right, because they put themselves, I'll tell you, they put themselves in a huge mess already. Our country put ourselves in a huge mess of separating these folks, and it's going to take a lot of time, and well, I'll say a lot of effort, right, which is that time, to get this back, and we won't make up for the mistake that we did, but we have to fix it. It's gone on for far too long, and now we have the capability and power to do so, to follow up right away with executive order, and now that we would at that time have the House and the Senate to be able to put in legislation in writing, rules that stand forth to become the law of the land, to make sure that this never happens again, and that people are made whole, or as whole as we can make it, for these folks that have been completely wronged by our system. And, so I do appreciate that. As Brown Berets, you guys are completely identifiable when we are out there with the protest. Folks, for a lot of us, we kind of feel like you're our security guard when we're out there, You guys come out there and do stuff. And I know we talked about this off the air, but there's a lot of things that I hear, because sometimes we'll have those proud boys out there, people who you guys are standing there, you're not confrontational, but they do get in your face, and you stand there, you don't back down. Proud of that you guys are doing that. And not, jumping to violence, but standing your ground. And that's the important thing. You're standing your ground. But I do hear them try to troll and give you guys bad names. And, Antifa has become kind of a bad name out there. And they say, oh, that's Antifa. No, that's the Brown Berets. And, I know you get that. How do you explain that? Is there a difference? Is there a correlation? Are they the same? What is it? Help our viewers figure out how to best answer this.
Well, for anybody who doesn't understand the true meaning of Antifa or what it is, first of all, it doesn't exist. There is no organization where you join and you get a card that says I'm a member of Antifa or a beret shirt. That's not true. It's a occasion to call it and begin with. Boogeyman that's been created to scare people away. But Antifa, and here's my educator, my history teacher's hat coming on. Antifa goes back to the word anti-fascist. So in actuality, if you hate, say, if you're against hate, if you're against racism, if you're against, misogyny or sexism or homophobia, if you're against those things, then you have an anti-fascist. There's nothing wrong with being anti-fascist. Mussolini was a fascist. You got people like Hitler, fascists. I mean, those are fascist rulers who proved to be, deadly. And Antifa, that meant that thing goes back to anti-fascist people who rose up as those kind of rulers and those kind of leaders said around, we're not going to take the burning of these bodies. We're not going to take the killing of whole people, including Leopold, the King Leopold from Belgium, that people never hear about. He killed so many black people in
Africans.
Africa. Yeah,
Yeah.
more people. The Congo is such a sick
Yeah.
thing during the imperialist times. Adolf Hitler killed less people than him,
Yep.
and yet we never learn about him. He was a fascist type of thinker and leader. And so when we teach people to be for pro justice, they try to call us Antifa because we don't back down, because we won't put up with that. And so when people, and I'll say this personally, this is me personally speaking, when people ask me, "Are you Antifa?" I'll tell them, if that's what you want to label me, heck yeah, because I'm against anti-fascism, I'm against racism, I'm against bigotry and all this. And so I want people to learn what the true meaning of Antifa is, because the way that Republicans and conservatives have tried to use it, including Nancy Pelosi, by the way, has been misinforming the public about what it truly means to be anti-fascist, or as what they're calling Antifa.
I think one thing conservatives are very good at, and we talk about this all the time, is their labeling. They are experts at that. They label something, they're patriots, liberalism is horrible, or they love to put these boogeyman antics out there, and then they're very effective at selling their point. They are very effective because if you think about it, in the start of this decade, no one knew really who Antifa was, right? It was just something. And then the conservatives realized, oh, these guys are against us, and they're pretty effective, and they're in numbers. So we got to make a boogeyman. And that's what they did. So you got the Tucker Carlsons and Sean Hannity's and Rush Limbaugh's being very effective in their marketing. And that's where we're at.
Right, and just to try to tie folks together in something that's
tie
bad.
it together.
But if people actually sit there and watch what is happening and watch you guys in action, your whole group, and listen to what you guys are fighting for and advocating for, I think most people agree. They see the presence there, how calm you guys are, standing your ground. It's just intimidating to watch people stand their ground, and other people got to do different things. I watched our local Proud Boys get you guys face spit and do all that other stuff, and everyone's holding the ground, saying, you stay where you stay, you stay on your side, you leave us alone on our side, let us do our thing, you do your thing. That's fair. That's America, right? That's what it's supposed to be like.
Yep.
And if people watch that, I have the greatest respect for people to be able to voice their own opinions. You don't need to go, and get in on other folks, right? The way they've been, right?
So you can't rush the Capitol.
That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. I mean, there's
That's a whole new story,
There's reasons for different things. When it comes to it, you come to it. But I mean, in our stage of the game, what we are fighting for, what we are moving forward in the different avenues that we are, whether it's in the street in a protest, or whether it's running for an election, or whether it's sitting as a legislator or the presidency. We all have our jobs and duties and functions that we go to. Whether you're an educator, you're teaching folks, we have our responsibilities, and we're going to take every avenue that we can to go for justice in all these different areas. And that's why I appreciate you on, Rafael, to give us a good reminder that there's a fight that many of us started because Donald Trump, because this administration and the conservatives come to follow, to do things like build a wall, to do things like separate these kids, to try to revoke DACA, and prevent all these things from happening. It's crazy. And chime in. What was the fight like to the folks before Donald Trump? Because the fight was still there. It just got intensified with this administration.
Yeah, the difference with Obama, and Obama was a huge moderate, so I'm not. I like Obama, but I have issues with him. But he didn't separate children and kids. He had a policy to put kids in cages, definitely, because he was putting parents. He wasn't separating them. And supposedly the way that he was attacking this or approaching it was anyone that committed any crimes and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to say what he did was right. I'm just saying it's different. Donald Trump, what he's doing is actively basically doing brown shirt stuff, right? I'm talking Nazism, brown shirt stuff. where
Mhm.
he just deputized these ICE individuals going into homes and taking children and taking kids out of their homes, out of schools, out of their place of employment, and just this crazy stuff that was going on. And now we have, what, 800 kids that can't even find their parents. This is ridiculous. This is the United States.
Mhm.
Had these been Canadian kids, right? If these been Tundra kids, we wouldn't
Mhm.
be in this situation. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows that the fact that those kids are in cages in the first place and being allowed to do it and they're getting away with it is because they're brown. Everybody knows that. This is
Yep.
not Secret Service stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I understand that. So look, I I want to, because me and Bobby really support this. I mean, when I saw this, usually I prepare for stuff like this, and I'll tell you, maybe we'll come on next week. But I was super excited because I think the first time I ever met a brown shirt in person, I knew who you guys were. I knew your organization because my mom was an activist when she was younger, and she kind of explains this to me. She walked with Cesar Chavez. My mom I'm a first generation American. My mom's from Monterrey, Mexico. So I know what that activism means. She was part of that labor movement. So I knew who the brown shirts were. The first time I ever met you guys was when Trump was running for president. And remember he came here to Fresno and I met a few of you guys and I'm like, I'm impressed. Brown berets. I'm
Brown beret, yeah.
impressed. I'm impressed, and I friended some of them, and I
Mhm.
conversate with them through Facebook and through some other social media platforms, and that's how I actually got in touch with you. Now, you know,
Mhm.
so I'm excited with this. This is something I fully support. These kids need to be out of these cages. This is ridiculous. It's got to stop.
And so as these changes happen, again, like the differences between, when it was before this administration, how hard that fight got, what are you anticipating? I know you're going to make demands in the 100 days. What are you anticipating? And you know what, from our viewers and for them to share or whatever it is, what do you ask of them?
The one thing we anticipate is hesitation because I know that they're going to have a hard time going in there trying to do what they want to do. Politics is not clean. You know that, Bobby. It's very you got to compromise. You got to make deals. That's politics. It truly is. So we know it's not going to be easy. That's why we said the first 100 days. But if it's not done, if something significant of substance is not, and not just lip service, if it's not done, there's many of us prepared, and this has been in the works for the last 2 years, where we're already organizing politically, and the Democratic Party will not get our vote. That's the only real thing they understand. And if it means that we vote third party, if it means that we, show our protest or express ourselves through the ballot, and they don't win, that's part of the hard lesson that they'll have to learn because they've taken granted. That's why we're hoping that they'll do something of significance. We're going to give them 100 days, but I know a lot of people are not willing to wait that long. They're going to put pressure on them. They're going to accost, not in a negative way, but they're going to shout down Nancy Pelosi like they did during DACA. They're going to shout down some of these leaders who are Democratic Party leaders, who have power, and they're going to put them on the spot. Even Jim Costa, when he came to Fresno here, when Donald Trump was running the first time, he tried to talk about TPP versus NAFTA. The labor union and people I'm working with really stood up to him, and I was proud of them because they put him on the hot seat, and he felt uneasy. And that's the kind of agitation that definitely we plan on doing. We do it already. We know how to do it, but we realize that we need beyond that. We also have another side of it is economic boycotts. Economic boycotts really do work. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks proved that you can shut down a whole city with the bus boycott, right? And
And the
people's lives are
trash.
affected and
Yeah.
impacted. Yeah, and the trash, right? And I think that with us, like the Goya products, that they took a hit. I know they probably didn't feel it because a lot of wealthy people have more money than they can live off for the next 100 years. But regardless, there's a boycott that we could take economic boycott approach to that, and then along with boycotts, along with voting, which I think are critical, activism. We got to keep their feet to the fire. And that includes Kamala Harris. It's awesome to see a woman there. It's awesome to see a woman of color there. A lot of us appreciate that, but that doesn't excuse any of them because I think and Steve, you said it right. Obama was not new to putting kids in cages. Matter of fact, he had a guy named General Kelly, who, in case you don't remember, was Donald Trump's chief of staff. That was his plan. That was his plan. That was under his command during the Obama administration, where people started being separated. And yes, there's called soft laws where you're not supposed to go to schools or courthouses and arrest people, but that's only on paper. Kelly took it further and allowed Trump to take it further. And I hate to say this, but what Trump did, I hate to say it, was legal. Under American law, everything he did was legal. It's just Obama wasn't mean like that. This meanness, just to put it in people's face, to purposely hurt people intentionally. Obama was softer, and that's fine. But it's not going to be until and this is another. You ask what we're going to do about it. The United Nations Human Rights Commissions and the United Nations Human Rights groups and connections that we have with. And I say we have because I have traveled to Cuba several times, including some of our supporters, to England. I've been to places where in Mexico where it's such a sad sight, and sometimes the only time you can get people's attention is to call the United Nations and say, hey, look what's happening, because under American law it's legal, but under the human rights, dividing people, separating families, deporting families, that's all a violation of the human rights, what do you call it, points that they've listed since 1947 or after World War II. And so they've been violating those rights. But under American law, I hate to say it, everything Donald Trump did was legal by using his executive order.
Yeah, I think, you make a good point about law.
From the lawyer,
Yeah, you make a good point about law, because technically at one point, right, slavery was legal. So
Correct.
If you ran away, that was illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So, or discrimination laws, Jim Crow law, all those were legal.
Yep.
So saying something is legal doesn't mean it's right. So a lot of people misinterpret that. That's why every time they put this law and order, we really know what they mean.
Yeah.
It's not about law and order. It's about, pursuing their agenda to do the things that they want to do. That's why when Trump was elected, the first thing he did, the very first executive order was a ban on Muslims. Why? Because they brown. We know why he did that. So we understand what Trump's purpose is, and I'm with you 100% about putting Democrats' feet to the fire. Bobby knows this. I am very adamant about that. Okay, we done got you elected. You are in office. What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? Because you're in office because a bunch of brown people put you there. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of groups that ensured. What was the group that you were telling me here locally that helped the Georgia ticket? The
Mi
local.
Familia Vota.
So you have groups like that here helping in Georgia, right along with Stacey Abrams and a lot of the issues or individuals there. So payback. It's time to pay the kipper.
That's what chases people away, and that's what I give you guys kudos for by staying in the fight. I mean, you kind of expect, okay, you gave us lip service, you didn't follow through, you're out. The next one, don't just give me lip service. Okay, you gave me lip service, you're out. A lot of people quit. That's why a lot of people want to get involved. They don't see the change happen fast enough. But this is something that you got to be in for the long haul and go do it. And that's why I give you guys kudos for everything you continue to show up for, to protest, to stand up for, and to do things. And that's what we need more people to do. But we need to hold every single elected official or appointed person their feet to the fire and hold them accountable for everything that they said they would do. And when they don't do it, we got to remind them, at least give them a reason, a chance to say why not. Because there is saying it and not really doing it, or saying it, fighting for it, and not being successful. There's a huge difference, right? Because we'll see legislators or elected officials say, I'm going to do this. But they never once showed up to anything. They never once paid attention to it, and they turned down every invitation. That means that was all lip service. But if they showed up and they tried and they proposed and it failed, we know you tried. We're going to have to do our job to get other people to follow through. And having you guys always there doing that, gives people strength and so forth. And I do appreciate all that I've been watching you do out there and fighting for. And I know, like you said, you've gone to Cuba, you've gone to different places to learn, because we keep doing the same thing, right? And we're going to get the same results. So I do appreciate hearing
Yep.
from you and other people that are watching this. Please try to learn from other places too. You know, it's not that you're going and saying, oh, we want to be like Cuba. No, you're going to see what people did and learn from different places in different areas, what they did to make a change in their government and in this, you know, in the society to do what's right. And that study, that dedication, that commitment, that needs to be rewarded as well. So thank you.
So I know.
Well, you
I
know,
know.
you mentioned.
I'm sorry. Hold on, real quick. I'm just real quick. I want to say.
No,
I want
go
to
ahead.
ask
Go ahead.
one more thing on. In this 100-day period, is there anything that you're doing here in the state, like, you know, in Sacramento, Gavin Newsom type thing, that you're any pressure that you guys are putting there?
The tour that we're gonna have, you know, everybody's gonna do something bad drops, calling out politicians. Obviously, others may show to places where the politicians are and speak their mind, but it's around the 20K day because a lot of us are in alliance with the African communities, and their calls for, you know, justice is for, you know, we're solidarity with them. So a lot of people are doing things already on the weekend of, you know, prior to the 18th. So there's a few of those things happening, banner drops. There's going to be some possible marches. I know New York City is doing a couple banner drops, marches, and I think they're having a hunger strike there that they're going to go support. But in terms of Gavin Newsom, in terms of what happened, the Sacramento groups are probably going to be doing something there. And I can't speak, but I can tell you something. Sacramento has really been active, and I appreciate their help. Matter of fact, we have a local Brown Beret member. The Brown Berets, his name is Jesse Ornales, and he was recently elected to the city council.
Merced.
One of the main, in Merced, correct. This is where many of us recognize that, like what Bobby was saying, you know, fighting is it's tough. It's discouraging sometimes. I've been in Fresno for 32 years and been at it, so I've seen people come and go. But now to have people in elected office and other places of power who can, you know, take the message much easier to a Gavin Newsom, for example, that's one thing we're looking towards doing as well, while maintaining our foot in the community, obviously, because I think there is something to be said about money and the elections. It really does corrupt leadership. So we're hoping to maintain that grassroots, you know, connection, but at the same time, you know, message to the top.
I think Citizens United is the worst court case in the history of the United States.
Correct.
It really is. It's
Yep.
horrific. Okay, so you know what? I really, really, really want you to come back at some point. Maybe talk at some point after this. Maybe we can take a couple cameras out there at that event, or at least I can go out there to that event. I'd like to film some of it and try to join you guys. So again, let us know where that event is going to be and the date again.
I definitely will. I'll get that information to you as far as what we're doing locally. As a matter of fact, we're having a meeting tomorrow. So you definitely.
Okay. All right. Excellent. I appreciate you, Mr. I know I said the last name wrong. So help me again. I am horrible with names.
It's Avitia.
Avitia. Oh, Avitia is good. That is easy.
Avitia.
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 Yeah. Avitia. There you go, Bob.
Okay. Rafael Avitia. I really appreciate you coming to our show today on the Steve Bobby Show, of course. And we need local activists like you advocating for kids that can't advocate for themselves in this border situation. This is one of the most important topics that we talk about here, and it's probably one of the most talked about shows, minus the fact that the orange guy we talk about often, but minus that fact. You know, these kids in cages situation it's very problematic. So I'm really glad that there is a group like you guys doing what you guys are doing. I definitely 100% support you. I would like to have you come back after that so we can maybe kind of tell me how that turned out and worked out. Maybe get some live footage.
Yep. Thank
Definitely.
you very much.
And I'll send you the demands as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Bobby.
Before we let go, is there a website? Is there anything that you want to guide people to if they want to help, volunteer, if they want to get involved? What do they do?
Well, if they look up their local, because this may be going throughout the valley, and there's several Brown Beret chapters, including Merced and Bakersfield, they could look up their local Brown Beret units or chapters or formations, as they call them, and basically just email them or send them a message. Hey, I want to get involved. I know that's been going on here locally with different people who've never marched or never did something. So that's all they need to do. They're everywhere. We are everywhere.
Okay.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can have a future discussion on this. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. So I
Bye.
think, that
Well,
when...
good job, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you for getting them and getting engaged and getting them on. I think hopefully you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys can see that there are a lot of fights out there that people did not forget and that people are going to continue to fight, and that the door is open for you to get in to participate in any fashion that you want to. Okay, you just need to believe, and you can get out there. There's something that you can contribute and you can do.
And the fact that no matter where you fall politically is irrelevant to me. Even if your side, you need to put your side's feet to the fire too, because once they're elected, sometimes they get a little comfortable. So I like the fact that this organization is putting the feet to the fire to Biden, because it's important. And even though I somewhat support Biden, I like him somewhat, his foot needs to be, this thing that Trump has done at the border, I like the 100-day, actually I think it should be sooner. I think it should be 10 days, really. I think
Well, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
But I think you face the reality of it, of everything they got to do.
Yeah.
100 days, you're being nice. We need to see action that happens.
Yep.
In that first 100 days, he's going to have his plan
No,
of
I
things
like,
to do.
no, what
and
I
it needs
like
to be
is
part of
it's
it.
realistic.
Yeah.
It's a realistic plan, because politically, there's all kind of things happening.
Well, there's no
100
excuse
days
after
is
that.
fair.
There's no excuse after that.
Yeah, right,
You're not
right.
asking, remember, they're not asking for a resolution, that it's resolved.
Yeah.
A plan of action, an intention to a plan of action, I think is a good thing in
Yeah.
there. And real stuff, not just lip service. Oh, we're
No,
gonna.
yeah. We're gonna
This is
do- we're
what
gonna do it.
right.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of stuff that can be done, that should be done, and that needs to be concentrated on. And we'll see. We're seeing a lot of things happen right now.
Real quick, when I seen the young girl on the ICG, I don't know if you saw it or heard it, that put tears in my eyes when they took the mother away. Remember that? They took the mother away, and the ICE agent had the young little girl at the border, and the mom was gone, and this poor little girl was just with some ICE agent. It broke my heart, man.
What's breaking my heart and what's sad right now is that actually there was a lot of that
Yes.
happened. So I don't know which exact one you're talking about, but it happened too many times. One time is too many times.
Yeah.
But it happened at factories, and it happened at the border. It happened,
Schools.
at kids waiting at school for their parents to show up, and they did not. It did have a lot of, there's a lot of fear tactic and scare tactics that came behind it, and I'm hoping it all is coming to an end. And you guys, please chime in. If you disagree with what's happening, chime in. Like we always say, we want to hear your opinions. We want to address them, and if you can
Well, and
join
the
in on the
fact
fight,
that
do it.
if you disagree with the issue with kids in cages, I'm be honest with you, I'm gonna have a problem with it. So you better come at me strong. There better be a good reason. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching the Steve and Bobby Show. Of course, we're here at Fresno, California, central part of the state. We're filming here at Mad Talk TV studios. Of course, we have tons of different shows here that film out of here. We have the In Touch series with the Miller Boys. We got the Supermax Nation. We got Hip Hop Scene, Fighter's Voice. So make sure that you guys tune in to some of those other shows as well. Go to the Mad Talk TV Studios Facebook pages. Make sure you guys tune in there. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Is there anything you want to add, Bob?
That's good.
Shoot,
We'll catch
there
you
we
guys
go.
on the other side.
All right, I appreciate you guys. Talk to you guys later.